right, it's 7 o'clock. So let's start. Welcome to the Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association Roundtable. This is your meeting, so feel free to ask any questions that you'd like about the commercial inspection industry or just business in general. And I think before we get any further along, I know William was the first on and has the first question. So William, fire away, please.
Hey, good morning, guys. My name is Billy Cup. I'm out of Tennessee, out here in Knoxville area. And I spent last week in Rob's class, and it was very informative and it was good. But I've got a question I'm trying to wrap my head around is price per square foot, how to figure that out, what to come up with. I've got hourly rates and things like that, but how do you, or what's the path to take to be able to figure out, I want to charge 6 cents, I want to charge 10 cents for this, for office space or warehouse space. How do I come about that, or what road do I take, path that I take to follow to come up with those numbers? I appreciate any feedback. Thank you.
Feel free. Anybody got help for Billy?
Well, I'll throw out some sort of broad ideas with that.
Okay.
I think that number one, Billy, with commercial, you're going to have a tiered per square foot if you're going that way pricing. So just yesterday we looked at a 1,100 square foot little commercial space, a suite, right? And then sometimes you have up to 500,000 or 1,000,000 square feet. So it wouldn't be the same. It would be tiered. And so, you know, the larger the building, the less, kind of in a broad sense, figuring it out that way. But also you might have a different set of pricing if you're going to use square foot based on the building type. And so an industrial or warehouse that has a lot of big open empty space that's basically just a box with nothing in it might be different pricing, or less, right? The less per square foot than a more complicated, say, large shopping center strip mall that's got a lot going on and a lot of intricate different businesses inside and restaurants. So there's more involved. The ones that are going to take longer, the per square foot would be higher. So it's not exact numbers, but it's, you know, we're sort of doing a hybrid on the pricing. There's a lot more to think about with the pricing, but just to start getting something down on paper for you.
Yeah.
And another way to think about it, if you start wanting to come up with your own cents per square foot, is grab a couple of mock properties, look up a few properties, maybe go out somewhere in public, look around at a couple of properties and mock it out. But think about how long would I spend here? How much do I need to charge to, what's my baseline minimum here to even turn a profit, right? And start thinking about it that way and lay it out. Because I've had to make quite a few adjustments in terms of that. If there's just one inspector, two inspectors, how many hours, so on and so forth. Ton more to it, but that's just my basic understanding of it.
That's a great way to answer it, Jamie. Yeah, Billy, and then you got to figure out, you got to make sure you don't price yourself out of your own marketplace too. You know, you might say I am worth 15 cents a square foot. Good grief, 15 cents is nothing. But if you remember in class, I used an illustration that I lost a job at 3 cents and I wanted it at 2 cents. And that was a $1,700 difference between 1 penny. And so you really have to, whatever you do, don't chisel it in concrete and hang it on the wall. You need to have some flexibility, because every job, every client, and every scenario is going to be different.
Now, with that square foot price, is that on top of your base price, or is that when you figure that, or is that just a square foot? That's what I'm charging to inspect the building, or do you hybrid it, or how do you, or does that matter?
That's the beauty of it. It's yours.
Okay.
I mean, you could say, you know what? It takes me X amount of dollars to get my sorry butt up out of bed every morning and put fuel in my vehicle and drive to a place. And then there could be another variable on there that's the actual inspection and responsibility itself, or you have that all lumped into one. That's the beauty of it, is you get to decide what's best to work for Billy in Knoxville, and that's going to be different than Andre, or different than Sean, or different than Jamie, because everybody has a different variable and a different way they want to go about it. And that's what's nice is there's not one set perfect way. There's just your perfect way.
We started
Yeah,
with a
just-
base price and then went to, and then add square footage on top of that, depending on the building type. And
Right.
we did what Jamie did, was went around and mocked up these different building type to see how long it would take us. And then of course compared that to whatever was going on in the market, and made sure that we were getting compensated in a way that was good for us and was still keeping us competitive. But then of course on top of that, if you bring specialists or engineers or anything in, then that's an additional, for us anyway, we add on to that. And special equipment, sometimes we rent lifts and whatnot.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't you got to be able to see that broader picture, and it might, TC is right. I mean, there might be one thing that you variable you don't remember, and then all of a sudden you go, crap, I just lost money on this job because, and then you learn. I mean, that's the beauty thing of it, is you're going to learn from your mistakes. The whole key is get out there and start doing the jobs so people start trusting you, so that you can build from there. Jamie, please.
Yeah, the clients are funny with pricing, and on kind of a different thing, I'm starting to find out. We just had our 20th anniversary, and pricing's been a thing for a long time, but there's a big spread in the types of clients in commercial, and so a little tiny space or small apartment complex seems like it's a different set of clients than the big ones. But I just had one that it was just a small apartment complex. We put the proposal out and we're talking, and in the end they went with us, and they told me, yeah, we had two other companies we were looking at, and you guys were right in the middle. And of course, they didn't tell me what the other two were. And on this particular one, in the interview, I got the vibe that I needed to lower the pricing that I had on our sheet, right? So I backed down the price and thought, wow, if I had just given them the standard price we have on paper in our office, we would have been probably over the top one. So I don't know how many clients go with pick the guy in the middle. Like, a lot of people might get a estimate to replace their roof, a homeowner, and maybe they'll pick the person in the middle. That's kind of a thing when you're shopping contractors. So a little bit of price shopping is what I was trying to get to here. If there's other companies in your area, and maybe you could call them or fill out their proposal form, secret shopper, all that stuff, and start to get an idea, okay, this particular building right here, what would you guys have charged, and try to land your pricing somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
You don't
appreciate
always have opportunity, but when you do, a pre-inspection interview is very helpful too. You could feel your client out. And like Jamie's saying, the smaller commercial guys, clients are often homeowners looking for their own business place, or then, and in the sense that they're most like a homeowner client, whereas the larger stuff is more so for investors, and they are a lot of times easier to deal with because they're just pragmatic about things rather than emotional. I think
Okay.
Rob has been saying that on social media lately, if I recall.
Yeah, this is a business transaction. This is not a place that they lay their head, and so they just want the best, and they're willing to wait for it, and a lot of them are willing to pay for it as well, which is good. And then there's some of them that aren't, and I think that's the perfect answer is I think when you think of some of the consumers being people, this is their first purchase, their first time business, and all that, they're going to be very conscious. And I think the interview process will bring all that out. So yeah, everybody's there's no right way. There's no right way.
That just gives me some sort of inclination point to kind of start and kind of go. I'd already kind of done the secret shopper thing, filled out a few forms, sent those off yesterday. So I'm hoping maybe today I get a phone call back just to see. If not, then I'll try a different route. I'm gonna like Rob, I've got a burner phone. So I'll pick that up, start collecting phone calls, and do some other things too, just to try to get some local pricing
Well,
in the area.
You're right, Billy, and that's the thing too is maybe you're not going to get a call back from everybody. Maybe you might get just blanket naked proposals. Now you know what's in your marketplace and how you can twist your dial just a little bit. Maybe you don't need to go all the way to 11, but maybe taking your dial up to 9 or 10 is going to win you more work in your marketplace than somebody else's. Julian, please.
Good morning, all. I'm from Los Angeles, California, Area Inspections. I'm the owner operator. Been in business for 15 years. Started doing commercial initially from a general contractor. My first inspection was 385 unit convalescent home. So I kind of got thrown out into the wolves and I had to just start swimming. So there was no association. And I mean, there was ComSop from Internachi who I was introduced to, but I think, all this is very organic. It's just starting to now everybody's now coming to light with how to price these out. And even for myself, just from my experience, I've kind of broken things down in a 3-tier group. So I'll do a ABC offer. That's probably the best way I've done it, kind of spread a net out. You want to offer them an A package, a B package, and a C package. Of course, the B is going to be your priced out better one. And then, offer, you've always priced out on utility because usually, you got so many water heaters you got to look at, especially if it's a multi-unit complex, so many panels you got to go into, so many HVAC systems you got to look into. So you really want to time yourself and see, well, how long it's going to take me to inspect a package unit and to get in there and to, turn them on and test them all. So timing is definitely something you want to take into consideration and make that clear to your client that you're going to need a whole day or 2 days to go be on site. It seems to go pretty quick. It's pretty straightforward and easy. But I think I've been successful using ABC. So sometimes, the client will look at it and they'll be like, well, I don't want to pay that much. So you offer them the A package, which is pretty basic. Then the B package would be like, everything, will go into all the units, will go into, or 80% of the units, if that's the case, or 80% of the property, or 50% of the property. So I've kind of gauged myself on just starting off small and then kind of price ranging that out, how long it takes me. And then now when it gets like more bigger warehouses or bigger units or strip malls, then I just price them accordingly from that start off point. And that's pretty much, I've been pretty successful at just getting some of these commercial properties out here in this area because it's very competitive out here.
And Julie, what's your success rate right now? Are you in percentage of wins versus losses?
So I'd say I get about maybe 2 out of 5.
Okay.
2 out of 5. Yeah, and it comes, I guess right now I haven't really focused on commercial this year. I'm resetting up all of my websites, redoing all my marketing, separating the two entities, and really doing more strategic marketing. I come to realize that a lot of these agents out here, the big commercial agents, they want to see the one person and they want to be able to have that one resource. So if you can become the resource for your agents in your area, and I pick their brain to take them out to lunch or something, and be curious, ask them, hey, well, what is your market like? What are others charging you? I have a lot to offer. We can offer these multiple things, or sometimes I even throw things in like an ADA just to get the contract in sometimes. And I usually just follow a template and I'll charge a little bit on that, or just throw it in the package. But anywhere you start from is going to be it's an unfolding process. It's not straightforward. You're going to learn as you go, but you'll kind of get a grasp for it, and you'll be able to structure your payment rate from there going forward.
Be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Julian. Robert, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, like Julian, I think helping my clients understand that it's a little different than if they're also doing residential. And I'm normally giving them options. My success rate is probably, when I get a commercial opportunity, is probably around 75, 80%. That being said, my issue is I need the marketing. So that's where I need the input. So normally when I can talk to either the agent or the client, I would say the majority of the time I get the job, and it's with a flexible approach. I explain to them, I try to find out what are they really trying to, get here, and giving them, here's what we can offer. Here's some options. If you want this also, this is what it costs. I have people that I can bring in if they really want a more thorough HVAC examination on a huge system. Like it's, I did one that was beyond me. It was a commercial. They knew they had problems with it. So now I could go on there and test it and tell them, yeah, you got a problem, but they wanted to know what the problem was. So I charged them. I had somebody who was a commercial HVAC guy. He gave me his price. I just tacked it on, added a little bit extra. But I need to be able to get to the people that are looking for the commercial. So that's my issue. I can help you out or give you a lot of things that have worked for me. Once I get to that point, like I said, I normally get the job. But I need those people though. I need, more of those people calling me, or me getting to those people, letting them know I'm out here and can do the job.
And I honestly think a good website, well positioned, well organized, searchable, and found on the internet can go a long way to getting those people to find you. TC, please.
If we've moved on from the pricing, I'd like to ask a question along the marketing lines.
Feel free.
So we've got both residential and commercial as well, and we're in a market where there's not a lot of commercial competition to the level that we like to bring. So there's a challenge of overcoming the smaller commercial client mentality there. But we travel all over the state and sometimes beyond. And I'm in the process of trying to differentiate the commercial from the residential a little more. However, I don't think we have here anyway enough to justify separating the website and everything. And of course that causes all kinds of other stuff when we have a lot of scheduling and such that goes through the website. So I'm curious, for everybody else here, are you just doing commercial, or if you are doing residential and commercial, how are you separating the two? Because they're very, very different beasts.
Lance, you want to take this one? I know it.
I don't know. I don't want to commandeer the ship that much. So sorry if you hear dogs in the background. They're going nuts this morning. So if I hear your question correctly, TC, it's how do you get in the mindset of separating the two? Is that correct?
Well, I guess more from a practical standpoint, so I've got them both on the same website, but I'm developing the commercial side of it for marketing completely differently, of course, because it's completely different clientele.
Yeah. So yes, I'm also in the camp of everything should be separated. You shouldn't be a home inspector with commercial on your website. You're only hurting yourself 100%. I think if you do that, you have to be able to separate yourself from the home inspectors in your area. But also I want to challenge everyone here. Most of you guys have heard this spiel, but I think it's important to hear it again, that residential is very much, this is probably a poor analogy, is very much landlocked, meaning you do residential inspections. I don't know if anyone else has had any opportunity to do anything outside of a sale, but mostly residential is someone's buying a home, they contract you, you do it and you do it and do it and do it and do it. Same thing over and over again, rinse, repeat. Maybe a seller will need you for something, whatever. Commercial, there really is 100 different ways to make commercial money. So all commercial is the opportunity for someone who owns a building who's using it for monetary gain to make sure the building's healthy and that they're not losing money. So I've heard, TC, you've mentioned it, I've heard other people mention it too, that there's just not a lot of commercial opportunity in my area. But if people have a commercial building and they're selling goods, then you have commercial opportunity. It does not have to be during the purchase or sale of that property for you to be able to work. We have tons of work that comes through where people own a building and they just want maintenance inspections. They want an idea annually. What are we dealing with here? Like, for example, we have a lot of churches here in Oklahoma. We did a contract last year where we did over probably 100 churches because they just wanted to know what the health of that church was. And they wanted us to build out a repair cost list for them, say what are our immediate needs, what are our long-term needs. So I want you guys to think about that it's possible for you to build an entire commercial company without ever touching the sale of a building. Now, that being said, and I'll turn it back over to anyone else, when it comes to separating the two, commercial is money, residential is emotion, like y'all said. So you have to get your mindset out of that and be a business consultant and build around that. But lastly, you also have to figure out if you're in an area where there maybe isn't a lot of commercial properties, or maybe they aren't selling and buying a lot of commercial, you've got to cast a wider net. You might be traveling. Our company will travel up to, I think, 5 hours in any direction. Now, we live in Tulsa, which is helpful because I've got Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, even Texas, major parts of them all within 5 hours of me. So I can make that trip because people will pay for it. I go to Arkansas tomorrow for a 200 unit apartment and they're paying well and because they trust us to go out there. So you may have to cast a wider net, unfortunately. It just depends. Some people are in a really rural area and they don't have a lot, and that's unfortunate. So you kind of have to figure out what is going to be in your best business practice. All right, I'll be quiet now.
That's true. I've traveled for commercial hours. Like I said, I've traveled up to 4 hours because it was worth it. Their pay at the mindset is different. It was a hotel. And I agree 100%. I got one guy here who had 4 commercial properties. I've already done 3 of them. So he's doing them in a row. So once I finish one and he's got it done, he's like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. So that's why I'm trying to find those people. And I really appreciate the input about separating the websites, because right now mine is the same. So I don't know if anyone has any recommendation on someone who's done a good job with their website commercial that you could recommend. But Lance is absolutely right. The work's out there for commercial. And that's why I'm like, I've got to find these people in a better way of contacting them, because I generally do well once I do.
So you don't have to necessarily separate your website if you properly keyword and properly enhance your website so it's searchable and findable. But that being said, having a second website where you cross-link it back to your original website creates this opportunity for you to be organically found. And being organically found costs you nothing. And that's the real key, is you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. You can build a nice, simple, visually attractive, commercially, and the key is commercially centric. If your primary website has pictures of houses all over the front of it, then somebody's searching for a commercial inspector that has to hit a tab. They're going, oh, and they do commercial. And is a firewall to the transaction, and they do commercial. But if you've got a separate commercial website, it's ABC residential and DEF commercial, and then DEF cross-links back to ABC, then you've got this opportunity to find both clients organically, and they can see your commercial site as, check this out. This is what we do, and we're the best at it. So it's something to think about. It's not a tremendous investment to make another website. It's It's more, your investment is more mental, and the hurdles are more mental than they really are financially. I can almost assure you of that.
So who's a good,
Go ahead. Oh, we lost your volume, Robert. So I guess the key is you could use InterNACHI's website builders. They're really good at what they do, and they understand the keywords. I'm not sure what the programs are for InterNACHI versus CCPIA, because we're two different organizations. But I can tell you that they understand the complexity. Then the other thing to remember when you're building websites is to make it so that if you hired an eighth grader to help you build your website, which is awesome, they'll probably build you an awesome website. You got to make sure that you can adjust it yourself. So make sure it's built on WordPress or Wix or something, or even GoDaddy or something on the back side of it, because what you want to be able to do is no less than weekly update your website. Add a photo of a commercial building. Talk about a project you did. Even if you didn't do a project, go out and take a picture of a building and put one sentence about it. Because when the search engines see that your website is in constant attention, constant viewing, and constant manipulation, you get ranked higher and higher and higher for free. For free. And free is good, because when we don't have to pay for the pay-per-clicks and the keyword searches and all those, then we can get our business organically, and then that gives us a higher profit margin. Please, Julian.
If I can add to the conversation a little bit, I'm kind of in the middle of doing all the separation currently, and I've successfully been okay with having residential commercial under my name, area. Area stands for Advanced Real Estate Analysis. So I come to realize I want to live up to that name. It's a pretty general name, but I recently purchased the website name, which is pretty inexpensive, about maybe $40 via Network Solutions. And I purchased the Area Commercial Consultants. So I'm just going to put a backlink on my current residential website that'll just lead them to that other website, and just be the same thing, all information, adding content building in that. That's something I've been training myself to do currently, even in my residential, is doing content building, which is another small hurdle that is pretty easy conquered. Just taking video and adding things to your site and being that person to be the informative for your area. And I think that's where I'm looking forward to right now, is just really establishing that next, and then moving forward that, and even stretching as far out into the Instagram and a few other channels, and just, posting up things to be the person out there of information. That's kind of my goal for this next quarter, is really focusing on those areas.
And make sure that your new website cross-links back to your old website. Make sure they go backwards and forwards and forwards and back. Just don't go one way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Any other marketing questions, or we want to move on to anybody else's questions or problems of the world?
Yeah, this is Rick Francis here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I wanted to present this, and I think a couple of the other inspectors in the chat have mentioned this, and that's getting in front of the realtors or buyers for them to know that we're there. And I think you talked about this in person in class in Chicago, is that the commercial sector inspection business, a lot of people really don't know that we're there, or that it's a thing, or where we fit in. And so, for example, recently, or in the last year, I joined the Commercial Association of Realtors, the local association. And when I met with the president, the first thing the president said was, "That's a thing? Like, what do you do?" you know, and I was kind of surprised that she was completely clueless as to, you know, there being a such thing as commercial inspections and whatnot. So they had a commercial roundtable. I try to go to as many networking events that they have as possible, and try to present myself as much as possible, because if we can get in front of people again, we can speak, we can show our value. And so they had a roundtable, and the way the roundtable worked was that there's different presenters per se, and every 20 minutes or so, the people would move from table to table. And so the event starts. I'm one of the presenters. I was highlighted at the top of the email. And then the first round of tables, nobody sat at my table. Room full of you know, few hundred commercial investors, commercial realtors, commercial contractors. Nobody sat at the table. And so then the next round, it was kind of like a few people got lost in the shuffle and they ended up at my table, and got that again the next round. And then the final round, again, nobody came to the table. Now, I think I do a really good job with branding. I kind of come behind a mentor who retired, who essentially sold me his business, and he has a reputation. And the people who came to my table, they said, "Oh yeah, we knew your mentor. That's awesome. We found out that you took it over and you're still keeping it going." But there was almost like there wasn't even an interest or a care, even though, again, it was something that they were presented ahead of time, per se. And when I've networked and talked with people in that sector of business one-on-one, they're like, "Awesome, I know you're there if I need you," yada, yada, yada. Sometimes we follow up with each other, but being in that association, and essentially the only inspector that I know of in that association, I thought it would garner me more leads, but it hasn't. And so I kind of tie it back to, and I think, again, you alluded to this, Rob, how can we get in front of the world? Like you said, we're kind of almost that first generation of commercial building or property inspectors. Get in front of the world and present their value, let them know this is a thing or a standard or something that should be regular as part of commercial real estate transactions.
Yeah, I think that's going to be our challenge, and I met that challenge head on when I was practicing by building a very searchable website and not using the realtor resources initially. And even to this day, the whole company I started is still 60% organic work and 40% realtor referrals. So they're still maintaining that scenario, but 7 years of great work has built inertia that those realtors that give us work continue to follow and will give repeat work. So being in those associations is awesome. But it can be frustrating because there's still the old network, and this is the old way of doing it. And turning around the battleship in the middle of the harbor is going to be a pretty tough endeavor. So I would strongly encourage to never give that up. Always maintain that, because you don't know with what you're going to catch in your net. But I would strongly focus my hard-earned resources in the organic identification of work from buyers and investors and all those people that are going to use the internet to find you. Because when they do, then they're going to pay for your experience. And then those people that ride their coattails, because that's the challenge on that, Rick. Just because you sat there in your speed dating and nobody wanted to sit and come talk to you because they don't know you, they're afraid of you or whatever. They didn't get to see that experience of what a great Rick inspection is. But when you see those realtors in the field, as I did, when they saw me in the field, they said, "Wow, I did not know that commercial inspections existed. Do you do other buildings?" And then that's how they became my friends. Lance, please.
So I am curious. We're doing it, and I think it's because we're talking about all the different ways that one needs to be putting themselves out there for clients and customers. How many of you are running a successful Google ad campaign right now?
Jamie.
Just JJ.
Jamie.
Oh,
Show of hands, class. Who's
well, Lance, let me jump in with this with you. So nobody on here is? Okay, so
I feel
we've been in business 20 years. Commercial is always the side note. We're doing 4 to 6 times as much as we did any other year, which is still not a whole lot. I attribute almost all of that to the Google ad campaign. Now
Jamie, what's your budget for Google ads right now?
I screw it up and spend far too much. It's gonna vary because we just changed some stuff, but we're spending 1 to 4,000 a month to get it going. But look, I'm fine. I think Rob, you just said 60-40, 60 being organic, 40 realtor.
Yes, sir.
I'm finding
at the 9-year mark.
So I'm finding personally over the last 2 years that we might be 70-30, 70 where 70% we're dealing directly with the client and never dealt with a realtor. Like Lance was saying earlier in the call, so much of this stuff is not a real estate transaction. So I just had 5, let's see. One was thermal panel scan, this new NFPA deal that commercial buildings have to have the panels scanned. The insurance companies are asking for this. One was a standalone phase 1 where they're going to demo the building and they just need the phase 1, the environmental stuff. One was actually just an office building that they need to do some mold testing. Let's see, what were the other categories? A lot of like a lease is coming to an end. They're not renewing the lease to triple net, and just the building owner is trying to hold them to, hey, you haven't maintained the building. So there wasn't really a real estate transaction. There's a couple other oddballs recently I'm drawing a blank on, but I guess the point there was that there's a lot of these that we're doing that don't have anything to do with a real estate agent. Out here, we have this deck balcony thing that became a law. They have to have them checked out. So just tying in, Lance, with what you were saying there, there's so much of this stuff that there is no real estate agent in it, or we're not dealing with a realtor. But that client is finding you. I think it's something like 86% in a service industry is simply they went on a computer, a phone, or a tablet, and 86% of them used Google. And if you don't show up on the first page in the top 3 in some way, whether it's a paid ad, whether it's organic, whatever, you got to be in the top on the first page. If you're not, that is the difference. So there's a lot of ways to go about, like, you can pay for that with the Google ad. You can do what Rob's saying with the organic, or do all of it. But that seems to be it. If you test, put your computer in incognito mode or have someone else do it and start searching around on Google, if you're not showing up in a couple of ways up top there, that's it. So the majority of it is coming from that. And then also what's interesting about this is that a lot of these people are not in your area. So I've got people from Montana, Florida, Michigan, all over the country that are the one facilitating this deal, whether it was a portfolio client or a manager type person or whatever. They're in an organization that's not necessarily in your area. So whatever they're using on Google to search you up, you got to pop up in that. So the phone call who's hiring you might come in from someone that's out of state, but the building itself is in your area.
So to piggyback off that, Jamie, I'm interested to ask everyone else this too. Is anyone currently working with a third-party national due diligence firm, or just being contracted by someone else as a third party to do a PCA or an inspection? Meaning another inspector in another state or whatever said, we're really busy, you're in another area, would you be willing to work for me? Or, like I said, like a big due diligence firm reaching out to you. Is anyone working currently doing that right now?
I am.
Yeah, I do third party. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Couple are Lance.
Just always interested to know who's been doing that.
Yeah, I do third party. My commercial, and I also do indoor air quality, mold, VOCs. You know, as my business plan has always been to migrate away from residential. So I'm probably at 80 to 90% commercial and environmental in my revenue. And so that saved me through the whole real estate thing in this area.
I got a question.
In that conversation, I know Jamie had said that he's spending upwards of $1,000 to $4,000 a month in Google Ads. Lance, are you spending that much money?
I said in the group chat, I spend probably on average around $450 a month, and we're consistently getting probably 2 commercial inspections a week right now. Somewhere in there, and then an abundance more of proposal requests. Now I won't be able to go on this call and really tell you why we spend $450 because it's a long conversation. But if anyone's interested, I'm happy to have that conversation off the books. But Robert,
and who you use? Did you do it yourself, or did somebody else do the ad for you?
Well, the owner of our company is Britt, my wife. You can see her blurry hand in the background. She's the one she built all of our websites, did all of our marketing, set up all of our initial sales and SEO. We're on the first page of everything you search. I mean, if you search blowing your nose in a commercial building, she's probably written something about it and it shows up on Google. Yes, we do about 450, less than 500, and we do it all on ourselves. So we don't have a marketing agency or anything like that. It's just all about knowing the verbiage, knowing the areas you want to work in. I think you even went as far as putting, like I said, within 5 hours of everywhere we work, every single zip code is associated somehow with our SEO.
Yeah. You have to learn how to do it yourself, because what Lance and Britt are able to do at 450, if they had a broker doing it for them, would cost them 1150, because all that money is burnt, or so is burnt up in fees and stuff like that. So you have to learn how to do it, whether it's diving deep into the internet, watching YouTube videos on how to do it, whatever it is. You have to learn how to be an entrepreneur and manage it yourself. Because I know my digital company that I partnered with when I was still working, they told me 4 years ago that for 350, I'd be able to be found and aggressively high on the list every month. Okay, so now if it's 450, I believe it. I mean, that doesn't sound like an unreasonable number. And even if there's articles on our website with this, even if you did it for 6 months or a year only, that would give you inertia of the build in your business to keep the coffers rolling down the hill. So it's always something to think about. Yeah, Jamie.
Just want to clarify that number I threw out there is for the entire company. We also have a sister company that does termite and all that stuff. So that budget,
sure,
and it's not just Google Ads. We have the Google Guarantee LSA, and there's several campaigns. But I'm just pulling up real quick because I haven't looked at it in a little bit. Let's see, just to give you guys. Okay, here we go. Average cost per click on the commercial campaign right now is $1.24, $1.24. And what I was joking about earlier of screwing it up, there was a time that cost per click was dramatically higher than that. And I'll just say that Google's automation stuff, when you sign up for this, they'll call you, they'll email you, they'll want to jump in and help you with your ad, and they'll want to automate it and use their AI. It gets quite complicated. But when we turned that on and tested that for a little bit, it got out of control. And some of it's simply keyword stuff, where people were looking at commercial buildings in the country of Spain. And so so on and so forth. And they start to get wildly out of control with, they think property management is part of your thing, and what Google thinks is part of your services spins out of control. And next thing you know, you're paying for clicks for people who are too far away from what it is that you offer. So that's I don't know a ton about this stuff, but I would recommend staying away from any of that automation stuff, because they want you to have your budget higher than what you actually want to spend. There is some benefits to doing that, but if it's opened up like that, it can get out of control. So, but what we're really spending on commercial, it's probably under 1,000 a month, something like that. But $1.24 a click in the last. Let's see. Let me just give you guys the last 30 days, real quick here. Sorry, loading. 557 clicks in the last 30 days. Impressions, 16,000.
Wow.
16,000 people looked at it. Almost 600 clicked on it, and that's $1.20 per click. It was wildly out of control before that, but anyway.
Terrific. Thank you. So yeah, do your research. Don't be afraid to dive in, but you're going to have to make sure that when you dive in, you understand, that you don't want to completely. I have made that mistake of being completely automated, and then yes, all of a sudden you look at your credit card and go, oh, this is bad. Yeah, so definitely know that you can set limits with this, not to exceed as well. Yeah, Jamie.
A tip Rob gave me in Colorado, your Google business profile or Google My Business, that dashboard and all that stuff. Make sure that you have commercial turned on. I forget the exact phrase that they use, but that you offer commercial. In Google My Business, a lot of home inspection companies, it's just you have home inspection selected, but you can, I think like Robert's doing majority commercial and mold and all that, you can switch the commercial to the primary and the home inspection to the secondary. And Rob had mentioned that a while back in Colorado, and that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially if you've been a home inspector for a minute, right? And your home inspections are moving, they're rolling. So and you don't want to, again, go to our website, read our articles that we have, because there's at least a half a dozen different articles on pay-per-click, organic searches, Google responses, because I mean, I found out that whenever you use the word and, or have the % in your Google My Business, that's a firewall. If they don't say both words, they don't say any words. So it's really weird that you should say commercial residential inspections. Each word stands alone, not commercial and residential. And so, I mean, these are all things that I wish I would have known 20 years ago, because it would have been a whole lot different of outcomes in certain endeavors I've tried to manifest. So, nonetheless, thank you, Jamie and Lance, for your help on that. Anybody else have any questions? We're coming up on 10 minutes to the hour. Yeah, Billy.
Somebody mentioned the ESA. Environmental Site Assessment. Is that part of the ASTM standard? Because I didn't see that anywhere. I don't think in the ComSop or anything where it said ESA, or is that just a totally different something I need to learn about?
Totally different thing. We're actually going to have this year at the Pro Convention a phase 1 environmental assessment company present that's going to spend a couple hours just talking about environmental assessments and where inspectors like us can fall into the food chain and maybe make that a revenue stream. Because typically most ESA inspections have to be performed by an engineering firm. But there is some opportunity for us. Robert, you had a question.
Yeah, so the way that works, if you're not an engineer, obviously there's what they call the field aspect of it. So that's where they will do third party. I use that as a replacement for my residential because you're not going to make the money that you would if you went out there and did it yourself or if you're an engineer. But it's significantly more than doing a house. There's other software that you need to learn. Quire is one that they use a lot. But there's opportunity there. I just use it as a side. I wouldn't recommend it as a dominant, not unless you're just not really looking to make bigger bucks, because you know they're not going to pay even what you would make on one decent commercial inspection.
Sure. Lance, your hand is up, buddy.
Yes, I was just going to make one comment here before we close, and someone else had another question. It's not as difficult to necessarily get people to you. It's one, getting them through the door, and then also their user experience. So be thinking about your website, be thinking about how you collect their data, be thinking about what conversations do I need to have with them to even make a proposal and send it to them. Removing friction from everything that is, because when it was for us, when I first started, especially home inspections, people were getting a hold of me 100 different ways, right? They were getting Facebook messages and text messages, and they would email me, and then they would go here, until we made one cohesive funnel where everyone went through. Now on commercial, especially, they have to fill out a proposal form online before I even talk to them further. And then I have to have a conversation with them after that. And then we send a proposal. Then we have another conversation to confirm everything. Then we send out a pre-questionnaire for the inspection to gather data. It's this one process for each moment where we reduce as much friction as possible. So as you guys create your websites and you create the data points that you're collecting, figure that out. Because it's possible that you might be getting 4 proposal requests a week, but you're only winning 1 because there's still so much friction. So think about that as you guys put things together. I didn't eloquently say that probably as well as Britt would have wanted me to, but I think that's probably the biggest thing in business is, you know, you can bake the pie and put it on the table, but if you don't give them napkins and utensils and how to serve themselves, then they may not be eating at all. So be thinking about that as you put it together. So
Excellent.
So,
Yeah, so just to kind of, as I would be remiss if I didn't, again, the Pro Convention in October, we're going to have a live roundtable on the Friday, hosted and monitored by Lance. We're going to have 6 sessions, 2 of which we've discussed here on this call. One will be IR, and where IR can fall into commercial inspections as a revenue source and not an inquiry source. And 2, there'll be a session just on ESA, environmental assessments. And so those are just 2. I know we're going to do one on building multi-inspector firms. We're going to do another session on multifamily housing, another session on performing fire door inspections. So there's a lot of excellent sessions that'll be available for you in the commercial tracks during the Pro Convention in October 10, 11, 12 in beautiful Orlando. Any other final questions or comments you want to throw out there? I know I hate to say the word final. We're going to do another one of these next month, second Tuesday of June. And so, yeah, Julian, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a good idea if anybody's dealing with cost segment analysis or any kind of capital means assessments. Anybody that deals with that, and what is your resource for that, or is it you contract that out? I'm still trying to wrap my head around those types of services.
So before I get Lance, we just put an article out last week about cost to cure. And we just announced in the last 2 weeks that Lance will once again be offering his cost to cure class live in Boulder. It's a 2-day class in June, correct, Lance? No, August?
it'll be August 1st and 2nd. So
August 1st and 2nd, yes.
Yep.
So those will both be live in Boulder, but we just put an article out last week or the week before about cost to cure. There's 1,000 ways to get numbers, and Lance will go over all of them, as well as the article I think hits a bunch too.
Thank you.
With that, I want to thank everybody for taking an hour out of their morning. Some of you is early, some of you your morning's been going for a while. Depends on if you're East Coast or West Coast. And so thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Be safe, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.